So there's a story by Vincent Edward about a minister at a small coastal church in Scotland, and he was sitting at home preparing to walk to his church that he pastored for an evening service. And as he looked out the window, he saw, that it was gale force winds, rains, and the voice inside of his head very recently said, maybe we just need to cancel for tonight. Nobody else is going to be out wanting to walk in this. It's one of the stormiest nights that we've had. Why even try and hold the service? And yet, from somewhere deep inside of him, he got this inner knowing that for some reason he needed to be there that night. And so he put on his raincoat and took his lantern and stepped out into this wind-whipped rain and made his way to the church and got in, set his lantern up on the windowsill, sat himself down in the middle of the room and waited. Waited for a while on, understandably, a congregation that never came. And so finally, he just decided he was going to sing one of his favorite songs and do a prayer and call it a night. And as he walked back down the hill, he asked himself, well, what was that all about? Had it all just been a waste of time? Why did I feel this, guidance, which I felt like was from Spirit, to go to this church only to sit there all alone and then have to navigate this nasty weather to get back home again? The next morning, he learned that while he was not aware of it at the time, his actions had made a huge difference for a fisherman out at sea, because the lantern that was sitting on the sill at the church on the coastline was the only light that could be seen by this boat that was trying to navigate its way back into harbor. And without it, it likely would have crashed against the rocks and been a disaster. It was a lesson that the minister learned that evening, and certainly is an opportunity for us to consider when we have these kinds of situations show up, that while we may not understand why we're getting certain guidance, we can trust that there is a reason, there is a way, that any time that we are guided to shine our light in whatever small way that might be, it will never be wasted. So today, we are exploring how letting Spirit take the lead, following our own internal guidance, following how the divine seems to be leading us, what that invitation is to shine our light, or how we're being called to express, makes a difference in our own world. If we look to the New Testament, and even in large part to the Old Testament, it never really gives us any direct teaching about spiritual guidance, or what we would more likely call today intuition. Rather, Jesus simply became the example of how to do it. As I talked about last week, there was no master plan in at least his awareness. There was only the willingness from day to day, from week to week, from year to year to follow where what he called the Father, or that divine presence in him, was asking him to go. There's one of the lesser-known Gospels that are called the Gospel of James that's attributed to Jesus' brother, that gives us some direction about tapping into spiritual wisdom. In chapter 1, it's written, if any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask, will be given. Let him ask in faith without doubting. For the one who doubts is like the wave in the sea that is driven and tossed when it blows in one direction or another. it's a reminder that this stream of spiritual guidance is always being offered to us, that there is this never-ending flow of it, but it is something that we have to be willing to step out of, and oftentimes it's outside of what our normal awareness, understanding, comfort zone might be to tap into it. For the minute we take that spiritual guidance and we overlay it with our own human awareness, whether that's be based on logic, based on experience, driven by our five senses, colored by our emotions, driven often, especially from our human perspective, of wanting to avoid discomfort and pain. That's what the human part of us usually will do. If that's really uncomfortable, if that's painful, the guidance is stop it. It's usually what you get. So this is asking to step into and to be willing to consider something that's beyond all of those things. And when it comes to us, when we ask and we receive it, we have to be willing to sort of move beyond what that default would be and be willing to trust it, to be willing to have faith that even if we don't fully understand it, even if it doesn't fit in to the boxes of what we've known in our life, we can trust that it's there to lead us in a way that's going to invite us to be a greater light into our world. You know, this is something I've been working on for many, many, many years, and it's sometimes easier to start with smaller stuff. It's like any other muscle. It takes a while for us to begin to know when that voice is speaking to us, know when that intuition is showing up, and then how we can be strong enough to follow it. There was an event that happened in this community, and I want to say it was in the maybe 1999 or 2000. It was pretty early on in this ministry. And one of our members had this brilliant idea, and I don't say that sarcastically, no, it was a really brilliant idea of, you know what, we need to get to be on online radio. The internet was just burgeoning, so everything was now going to be available online. And there was sort of this emerging new field of what we now know today as podcasts, or, you know, having a digital radio station rather than one that goes by, you know, radio waves. This was one that would be on the internet. And we had someone in our community, and they said, look, you know, we've got this idea. They had a plan. They had a business plan. They had it all worked out, and they wanted to use the church space in order to do all these different, for lack of a better word, I'm going to call podcasts or guests, things happening on this station. And they wanted to basically use our equipment. In fact, we would donate our equipment to this, and then there would be this profit sharing that would come out of the results, and people would subscribe to this. This was like, I know it seems like second nature now, but this was so, it had never been thought of before. You subscribe to it, you pay a monthly fee, and then you can have access to all of these things. And it seemed like it was an amazing idea, and we went through, and this got presented to the board, and we were each sort of in our own discernment about it, because the big thing was the equipment. You know, this would get signed over. And back at that time, we had two huge TV cameras. I don't know if you remember that. There used to be two huge ones that sat in the back here, and sound equipment, everything, you know, it was very expensive to be able to. We were one of the few that, in fact, because we had it on a public TV station that we used to send out a video every week. And when it came down to it, I got, and there were other people getting it too, but I was surprised that I got a no when I kept asking for my own guidance from beyond just the human circumstances going on. The answer kept being no, and I was like, no, that can't be right. Why wouldn't we do this? This makes absolute sense. And I got no several times, and the ultimate decision was a no. And it was very difficult, because it was difficult for the member too. It was uncomfortable. And what ended up happening, and we didn't know it at the time, was about 3 months later, Unity, big Unity, launched Unity Online Radio. And they had the resources and the people and the guests and all this. So we would have been in direct competition with our big parent company's radio and all the guests that they had. But it was all under wraps and we didn't know it at the time. So sometimes things unfold. We get guidance of yeses and nos or this direction or that direction, and we have no idea why. But to be able to trust it, to have faith that it's something that we can rely on, and it's something that will lead us ultimately to good, even if it doesn't seem like it or look like it in that moment, is probably one of the greatest ways in which we can choose and be able to live and be led by what Tasha Silver calls the divine, to allow the divine to take the lead. So as we move into our meditation time, I'm going to invite you to see if there's something right now that is asking for your direction. And perhaps you've been struggling with for a little while. Perhaps it's just something as small as, where are we going to go for lunch? Because sometimes those little decisions can be really big decisions, and to just be open to and see what shows up for your own internal guidance. And the biggest thing is not to question it, to go, well, I don't know, that probably wasn't that, that's not that voice. So it's to just begin to practice with this and see what unfolds. So I would just invite you, we're going to just have a little time in our service now to bring our attention inward so that we can listen, so that we can tune in with that inner ear. We can allow the gut of our being, which is that soul guidance, to rise up into our conscious awareness. So wherever you are right now, just let go of anything you might be holding on to physically. Even if there's things about this day that are consuming your thoughts right now, see if you can just park them to the side for a few moments. Sometimes just being focused on the breath as you draw that breath in and then naturally let it go can bring all of your awareness into this present moment. For that is the only place the breath can be experienced, is in this now moment. It may be easier to allow your eyes to close so that you can bring your attention to your inner space of being. Focusing on your heart space as that place that can be the bridge between who we are as human beings and who we are as divine beings. That place where we can connect into all streams of wisdom and guidance. And in this space of your heart, just invite the divine wisdom of your being, of those who you may invite in to guide you, whether that is Jesus as the Christ, whether that is a loved one who is now in spirit, a spirit guide, angel. The divine is in all of it, in whatever way that allows us to be open to the flow of life. And we just ask, what would you have me do? What would bring healing into this moment? what would allow me to know myself as that divine light and share it in a greater way. And take just a moment in the quietness of your being to hear with your inner ear, to see with your inner eye, and to trust the quiet guidance of Spirit. And even if nothing is arising in this moment, see if you can't make a commitment to be open to whatever might pop up as this day unfolds. Perhaps it's in a conversation that you have that guides you in a particular direction. Perhaps it is just being willing to be in the beauty and the quietness of nature that an inspiration arises. Once we're open, willing, it shows up. All we need to do is make it welcome. And so as we begin to bring our attention back to this time and space, open for whatever unfolds in this day, grateful for the ways in which our divine good shows up. We simply say yes. We take another deep breath, aware once again of the sounds in the room and the seat that's supporting us. And whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes. One of the reasons I love this book, Outrageous Openness, Letting the Divine Take the Lead by Tasha Silver, which I've been drawing a few things from, is beyond its just ability to inspire us with sort of really beautiful stories. She also offers practical ways to strengthen our ability to be able to hear and to trust this quiet guidance that is always present. We just need to be tuned into it. You can open it up. I don't know if you've ever done that. I do that all the time with books. I'm like, what would you have me know today? What would you have me do today? What would you have me be aware of today? And open it and see what happens, and then take that and allow it to unfold in our day. She suggests, and this is something I've done many, many times. I haven't done it in a while, though. I'll have to do it again. Setting aside an afternoon in which you have no agenda at all. I know. Grab one of those. At least, 2 or 3 hours. Say, okay, for the next 2 or 3 hours, put your phone on airplane mode. I know, God forbid, you couldn't totally turn it off, but put it on airplane mode. Don't make any plans. And simply take a moment to say, I offer this day to you. I offer it to you, divine. Please bring me what is most healing, what would enliven me, what would enlighten me, what would restore me. I open to whatever it is and whatever way you guide me into that. And then to see what happens. I like to go, she talked about she would go into, she lived outside of San Francisco, more in a residential area. She'd go into the city and just have no plans, just go in and walk the streets. Wherever she felt guided, a little shop to go in, she'd go in, There might be, she talked about all different kinds of things, people that she'd meet, conversations that would happen, connections that would be made, just to be open to see what unfolded. So I used to do this all the time. I loved to do it when I first moved to Roanoke because I didn't know the area. So it was not that hard to get in my car, and it was a smaller, like 100,000 people. So within about 5 or 10 minutes, you were kind of out in the country. It didn't take you very long, and you never quite knew where you're going to. And this is mountainous road, so they twist and turn and up and down, and there you lose your bearings, or at least I do pretty quickly, and you just go with it. And thank God, by then, we have a little bit of GPS, so, I feel confident in doing that because eventually, when it's time to start making my way back, I can turn it back on and it can guide me on how I'm going to get back, and I don't have to worry too much about it. And I did this one time. I was in Colorado Springs. I was there for a spirit group training, actually, and we had the afternoon off. I'm like, well, it's a pretty day, the sun's shining. The Rockies are right there calling my name, so let's just take the rental car and go up into the mountains and see what happens. Sometimes I scare myself, I will tell you. I get my husband will look at me like, are you just crazy? But you just get on the road and, Spirit would say, well, let's turn here. Okay, let's go down this road. Let's go down this road. And I found myself, it had been clear roads in town, but the further I got up into the mountains, the icier the roads seemed to get. And I found myself going straight downhill on this very icy road, white-knuckling it, not at all happy with my internal spiritual guidance for suggesting that I get on this road and go down this. I mean, it was really a one-lane road, so you'd have to kind of pull over to the side of the edge of the cliff if another car was coming to get by you. And I finally get down to the end of this and pull it, and it was the most stunning, magnificent, beautiful scene of just magic that I've ever encountered in my life. It took my breath away. And thankfully, there was a place I could pull off, and I just sat there and reveled. There's no words. I don't know if you've ever, but there's just no words to describe it. And as I sat there, finally my heart rate came down, my breath came down, and the voice inside said, I am with you. Even in the fear, even in the unknown, even in the place where it looks like there's no way through it, I'm with you. Trust me, and I will always lead you to the most beautiful places. I've learned that you can invite God in to the most ordinary moments, and they can become extraordinary. So here's what I'm going to invite you to do. Sometimes it's easier. Don't go up into the mountains and drive. If you haven't done this, I don't even know. I wouldn't probably go do that again either, because sometimes once is enough to have certain experiences. But so take God shopping with you when you're looking for a perfect gift. Really set this up. Take a moment, center yourself, pray in it, invite the divine into the process. And then go see what you're guided to do. Even if it seems sort of outside the box or not what you would normally get, or just go with it and see what happens. Ask for this guidance if you're carrying a burden that you can't seem to put down. We used to have those God cans where you'd put them in, you'd write it down and then you'd put it in the God can. Put it somewhere and say, it's in there. God's got this. It's in the box. It's in the can. God's got this whenever it comes up. You can take this into the everyday experiences of your life before you go into a meeting. Just ask to be guided from that place of your divinity rather than your humanity when you're going into that process. And as you begin to trust it, because that's the piece in there, is to be willing to stay with it long enough to trust it, even when it gets uncomfortable, even when it feels like it doesn't make any sense in the way that life typically makes sense for you. Then we can begin to just be in its flow. And a lot of the worry and the fear will find its will be carried along with it. It may not go away, but it'll be carried along with it. And when you've practiced this long enough, your prayer just simply becomes allow. And you can let go of the how. Because that's usually where most of our energy is spent, is how. I've got to plan out how this is going to happen. And this is really about, can I just move to the space where I allow it? And I don't need to know the details. Just to be willing, to be open, to be available. Because that's what the divine is looking for. That's the place where it can be that flow of your life. The author offers one final practice that I believe can change everything. If you want it to happen quicker, if you really, it's like, I'm ready for this to happen now, don't simply pray for what you want, become what you seek. If you're praying for kindness, then make it a concerted effort every day to be kind. If you're praying to have more love in your life, then make it your mission to love. Not just the people who might return that love, but to love as broad, as wide, and as deep as you can. If you're seeking peace, then to become that peaceful presence. In becoming the very qualities that we long to experience, we become the channels and through which God can express that into our world. And perhaps that is the deepest lesson of the lantern that was up on that hill that day. The minister had no idea that that simple act of willingness, of faith, would become someone else's salvation. He wasn't trying to change the world. He wasn't trying to go out and make a difference. He didn't even think about this in the respect of being a light. He was simply willing to show up and to trust that inner prompting and to be the presence based on that invitation. And the same is true for each of us. Every act of trust, every moment of surrender, every quiet yes to the guidance of Spirit, every expression of love, of compassion, of generosity, of forgiveness becomes a light that reaches into places that we will probably never know. And when we stop trying to control every outcome and instead allow ourselves to be led, we begin to see that life itself is filled with grace. The challenges actually become our teachers. The detours become sacred. Every ordinary moment becomes an opportunity to encounter the divine. And when we begin to recognize that God is present in all of it, in the mountains and in the valleys, in the answers and in the waiting, in the joy and even in the struggle, we can begin to move, and it naturally evolves into this energy of gratitude. Not giving thanks because what we've wanted has been delivered or that everything is now perfect, rather to give thanks from that awareness that God, that energy of unconditional love, that the light that is in each of us is present. It's present in everything and in everyone. And we can say, my light, help to shine that light so someone else could in turn be the light for one another. And that is when we can know that the divine is in the midst of it all, and we can give thanks. Yeah. Well, it is our opportunity now to share of our financial good with this spiritual community. We're in that flow of gratitude for the many ways in which good, both financially and people giving of their time, people giving of their talents. It all is a part of that flow of giving and receiving. And we just give thanks for it all and the ways in which it blesses our community. And then through our tithes goes back out into the greater community. Let us take what we're offering today into our hands and into our hearts and bless it. Together, divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, Father, Mother God. If you're able, we're going to do this is our way of connection, our summer of connection. We're not doing tables and chairs, but we're going to do a big old circle to sing our peace song. And I'm just going to encourage you to connect with each person as we're singing the song. Just... And so as we go into this week, excited to see where the divine will guide us into new ways of experiencing life, we go, knowing our prayer for protection. We'll do it as call and response. The light of God surrounds us.
I am the light of God.
The love of God enfolds us.
I am the love of God.
The power of God protects us.
I am the power of God.
The presence of God watches over us.
I am the presence of God.
Together, wherever we are, God is, and all is well.